afternoon and Happy New Year again, everyone. And welcome to one of RVN's shows, What the Why with Barbara Ann. If by chance you haven't seen us before, our show features conversations with diverse leaders from all walks of life about why they do what they do and how they figured things out. For example, maybe at some point you felt stuck and you wanted to get unstuck, or maybe you were sick and tired of feeling sick and tired in your life, your relationships, your career, your corporation, your government agency. All of our guests that we feature have something in common with you. At some point, somewhere along the line in their life or career, they felt similarly and they decided they wanted to make a change. And today's guest is no exception. In fact, she's actually made a career of helping others figure out their changes as well. I'm really excited to have Meredith Bell join us. Meredith is the heart-centered connector and president and co-founder of Grow Strong Leaders. She's a multifaceted expert with decades of experience. She started when she was really little, who has co-created and led the development of multiple products and books that optimize how leaders interact. In addition to hosting the Grow Strong Leaders podcast, Meredith is president and co-founder of Tools for Increasing the ROI, or return on investment, from your learning and development programs. She is the co-creator of the interactive online coaching system for developing leadership skills, which is a subscription-based online coaching system that gives leaders the practice and support they need to apply and master leadership skills. Through her system, they help with the people side of business. Their assessment and development software tools help leaders acquire and use the skills that inspire others to do their best work, and many of their clients and resellers have worked with them for 20 plus years. Meredith is also the co-creator of a particular tool, the customizable 360-degree feedback and survey software through 2020 Insight Gold. This is an award-winning survey program that's been used worldwide by hundreds of organizations for more than 2 decades. She's also a published author. She co-authored 2 books with Dr. Dennis E. Coates. One is titled Peer Coaching Made Simple, and the other is Connect with Your Team, Mastering the Top 10 Communication Skills, both of which are available on Amazon, along with her solo authored book, Strong for Performance, Creating a Coaching Culture with Learning and Development Programs that Stick. Meredith holds a Bachelor of Arts in Elementary Education and a Master of Arts in Education, Curriculum and Instruction, both from Virginia Tech. She has many interests and volunteers with multiple organizations, too many to list here today, or we wouldn't have time to hear from her. I'm thrilled she took time out of her schedule to join us, so without further ado, please help me welcome Meredith Bell via Zoom from Virginia. So yay, round of applause. Welcome.
Thank you, Barbara Ann. I'm excited to be here with you today.
Oh, me too. So I know you're familiar with the format. And we're in season 2, and that format still hasn't changed after I read down the list of all of the amazing things. And that's just, for those of you who are watching, that's just a sampling of some of the many accomplishments that Meredith and people that she's worked with have had over the past few decades. But I'm curious to know what little person Meredith wanted to be when she grew up.
You know, honestly, Barbara Ann, that has not changed. Just the location, because I always wanted to be a teacher.
Okay.
And as a kid, I would gather, friends from the neighborhood, and I would stand up in front of the class and give instructions. So I practiced a lot. And then when I went to college, I did get my degree in elementary ed, as you mentioned, and I taught elementary school. And for a few years, I did enjoy it, but then I discovered I got bored with repeating the same lesson plans. So I got my master's and I moved into supervisory roles in the administrative school board office, where I was doing some training and teaching with other teachers. And then I discovered I don't do bureaucracy or politics well. And so I decided that wasn't the place for me anymore. So I left no business background. So this should give hope to your listeners, your audience who don't have certain experiences and think they need to get them before they, jump into something new. I'm a prime example of somebody that you can figure it out along the way. So back then, there was no internet, there were no resources other than audio cassette tapes and books, which I studied. And what I decided to do was be a solo consultant and trainer. So I kept this theme of teaching. And what I'd always loved was this area of people skills around communication. So I started doing training programs for companies in that area, which evolved into leadership development and team building. Then I met one of my two business partners that I've worked with now for over 30 years. We started collaborating. Made sense to put our businesses together. We brought in a third partner. We continued to do training for a while, and then we decided, you know what, we want to use, as you mentioned, a 360-degree feedback tool. Good one didn't exist back then. So we created our own and launched that, again, not having a clue what it meant to be a software company. But my role continued to be in the teaching area in that I was doing the marketing and sales. So I was teaching people how to use our products. I was teaching our resellers how to introduce our product to others. And so for the last many years, that's what I really focused on. And through our books, through my podcast, I feel like I'm still in the spirit of teaching. Mm-hmm. So I've continued to evolve in the way I express that longtime desire.
Wow, that's awesome. Because I don't get a lot of people who, they might be doing a version of something that they wanted to do, but you really kind of knew early on what your purpose was going to be. It was just a matter of where you were going to apply it, so which is really, really interesting. What do you think are the top 2 or 3 things that contributed to, because you could have offered those services in school settings, administrations, how did you decide that working with businesses versus staying in academia, doing similar work, was your path, or do you do both?
We've really focused more on organizations. So we've worked with private and public companies, government agencies. Some school systems have used our products. Okay. But initially, when I decided to launch my own solo practice, I relied on, for marketing, the thing I knew how to do, which was speak in front of other people. And so I started speaking before civic groups, professional associations, and people who were in the audience that were working at a specific kind of company, or it might have been a CPA firm, would come up to me afterwards and talk about how they could use my services. So I really followed where the interest led instead of going after school systems. Mm-hmm.
Now, you say you've been doing this for over 30 years. You're at a point in your career where you've worked with so many. Getting started is a challenge, and it took some courage for you to go from, kind of a steady position. Not a lot of people. Actually, one of my best friends just moved to Virginia, and she stayed in academia in her role, and it's challenging. There's an aspect of fear with making that kind of a pivot. So how did you find the courage to go from, say, even though the bureaucracy wasn't for you, it still had a steady paycheck and a level of comfort?
I did. It was risky. For one thing, I think I've always had this deep belief in myself that I could figure things out. So I had this confidence. I was ignorant of what I didn't know. So I just plowed ahead. I would study and learn some things to do and try them and see what worked. I'm willing to experiment. I'm willing to jump in where I don't know the answer, but I am confident I can discover what will work. And so I just kept playing with things. The other thing is I had just gotten married, and my husband was very supportive of me pursuing this career. I think if he had been, negative or hesitant or expressed some doubts, I would have been less confident. But I had his full support, and that meant a great deal at the time too. But primarily it was relying on my own ability to figure things out and then trying things. So it was a combination of learning and action. I think that's the key. Not being afraid to hear no, not being afraid to have something not turn out the way I hoped it would, and just learn from that. I think that's the key thing. I think of myself as a lifelong learner. So that is applicable in the business world too. What can I learn from this? What will I do differently next time? And just asking. A key part also, honestly, Barbara Ann, is developing a group of supporters, a network of people that you can be of service to. And then when you want to ask something of them, they are happy to help in any way they can. Yeah. So it was putting myself out there, meeting people, and then finding out who else somebody might know that might make an introduction, just as an example. I think that's really key. How can I serve others first before I ask for something for myself? That's been a key operating principle for me.
Fantastic. And believe it or not, we're already at the halfway mark. And so definitely, for those of you who are tuning in, we get ready to take our commercial break. Please come back and join us for more with Meredith Bell after these brief commercial messages. Welcome back to What the Why, and today's very special guest, Meredith Bell. Before the break, we were having a conversation, and Meredith was explaining about how really so much of her motivation and her ability to move forward was her support system that she surrounded herself with, people that she knew she could trust and care, and her mindset and her willingness to learn. Always a student, willing to learn from whatever came her way. And so you were talking especially about your support system, your husband being such a huge support, and surrounding yourself with other like people who could also help motivate you. If you could talk a little bit more about how you did that, because there are people out there that want to support people and lift them up, and then there are people who see you more as a competitor and aren't necessarily always looking out for your best interests. And sometimes people struggle to identify which is which. And so how did you figure out who to include in this significant journey that you were taking?
That's a process in itself.
Yeah.
Barbara, and you brought up some good points. For one thing, I tend not to see anyone else as a competitor, even if they offer something that's, exactly, because it's never exactly like what you offer. There's always some unique aspect of what we do that's different from what somebody else might do. Yes. I really do have that growth mindset an abundance mindset. There's plenty for all. And so when you approach other people with that spirit, you're going to identify pretty quickly in conversations with them if that's aligned with your thinking and with your values. I tried a number of different times. I'd read Think and Grow Rich about setting up a mastermind, and I tried that different times with different people. And I found I was always the one initiating things. And so it takes experimentation. And I think that's a good reference point to think of everything we do in business as an experiment. I love the idea that I remember reading about, imagine yourself being a scientist in the lab with your lab coat on, and you're running an experiment, and you have a hypothesis, you've tested it, and now you have data to look at. So the data is just data. It's not personal. And I think one of the things that can get in our way when we're trying something new, especially in a business, these self-doubts that we can have can cause us to look at data that didn't that's not what we hoped for, and conclude, oh, there's something wrong with me. Or, what did I do wrong? Or, this whole internal blaming that can go on, instead of looking at it impersonally and saying, what did I learn from this? What is this telling me about what my next step needs to be? Because it doesn't usually mean I need to slam the door shut and go get a job, or, go do something different, radically different. It does often mean if I didn't get the results I wanted, then the way I did that, or what I just did, isn't the answer. So what is? It really helped me a lot when one of my mentors encouraged me to be more playful in my approach. And when we can have that playful attitude and think of it as, this is all a game. I'm playing a game. What can I do today to be better? If you think of any competitive sport, these people are practicing every day. And the way that in business we do that is to simply get out there in the world and do things, make asks, invite people, and see what happens. And that's how we learn to change our approach. And so that's been my evolution all these years, is just recognizing I'm growing, I'm learning. There are things that I can do, that I can find out what works and continue doing them. And for me, it's always about the relationship. It's why so many of our clients and resellers have worked with us for 20 years or more, because we are fair, they can trust us, they know we care about them, not on a transactional level, but at a deep level as human beings. And when other people can sense that from you, it has huge payoffs compared to a lot of techniques or tactics that you might adopt and try.
Agreed. I'm so glad to hear you say that, because there are those out there, it almost seems as if they're trying to dazzle people with their brilliance as opposed to help them. You have the tools that work for you, and you've tested them, you've learned from them, you've tried them, you've faced challenge with them, and you approach everything as a potential learning opportunity, whatever the outcome is. And that's one of the many superpowers you have. And I know you and those who watch have heard me say things like, failure is the first attempt in learning. There is not really a fail. Or even no is next opportunity. And so much of what you're saying seems to fall into that type of mindset, this possibilities, mindsets. And you mentioned that you had some challenges along the way that you really learned from. To the extent that you're comfortable sharing, what is something that you, I guess, would consider one of your bigger, if not biggest, learning experiences in the evolution as you explained it?
Well, one thing that comes to mind, I was able to network with this one organization over a period of years. I attended their conferences. I was always giving positive feedback to the fellow that was the organizer. And I got invited to speak at one of their large events, which had about 1,100 entrepreneurs.
Wow.
I'd never spoken to a group that large, so I practiced a lot. What I wasn't prepared for, when I got up on the stage, my mouth went totally dry. I almost panicked. There's this big audience sitting there. And so I walked over and got a bottle of water and took a sip and took a deep breath and got my voice back. And so I was fine. It took me a couple minutes internally to recover. But then what I did is I focused on them. And I knew what I was there to deliver. Anytime that I find I'm feeling concerned about how I'm coming across, how do I look, all of that kind of stuff, it's when I'm not focused on the other person or the group. And what is it I'm here to do? I'm here to serve them. And when I keep that focus, it doesn't matter how things turn out, because I know I'm coming at it with the right spirit. Mm-hmm. And good things always come out in some form or another. It's that, who am I being in this moment with the person or the persons in front of me, and just being focused on giving to them in the best way I know how in that moment. Our own self-talk and self-criticism is what can get in our way and hold us back. Because if we start telling ourselves stories, oh, I can never talk in front of a group again, I blew that, and going on and on, then we can create a situation in our own minds mm-hmm. that prevents us from taking the action that would make a huge difference mm-hmm. in the results we got. Yeah. So monitoring my self-talk has been a huge element of my own growth and development. What am I saying to myself? Am I loving to myself? Mm-hmm. Would I talk to my best friend like this?
Yes, exactly.
Never.
Yes.
You know, I think that's a really important element.
Yes, agree 100%. I had shared a meme recently where it was like, somebody had said, you should talk to yourself the way you talk to your doggy. Kind of like, oh my gosh, you're so beautiful. You know, you're doing a great job. Things like that. We do often say things to ourselves that we would never say to anybody that we love. And it you see people and you look at what they're doing and they are holding themselves back by not even trying. And it's almost like rather than fail, they just, why try? Or they convince themselves they're going to fail before they even start, thereby ensuring that they will.
Yeah, if we can turn that around and ask the question, you know, what's one step I could take
yes.
to move forward with my goal today? In fact, I don't even call it my to-do list anymore. It's my playlist. And that brings a lightness to it. I tend to be a serious person. You know, I take things seriously. And it's like, this is no time to joke. And yet, oftentimes when I'm taking myself or a situation too seriously, that's the exact time mm-hmm. to lighten up. Because when we get very intense and anxious about something in front of us, we lose the ability to be curious yes. and creative. And that's where the magic can happen.
Yes.
If we ask questions and play with questions, well, what's one thing I could do to get a different outcome than I got today? Mm-hmm. What would I like to do instead of, or who do I want to be in order to make this happen? Because I can be whoever I want. I'm not caught up in a set identity yeah. of who I am. I can stretch. I can be whoever the situation calls for mm-hmm. in that moment. And when we realize we have that kind of power, it frees us to try new things and not be overly concerned about the outcome. It's the process and the practice mm-hmm. that are going to help us get where we want to go.
Yeah. So as we get close to wrapping up, as I mentioned, you're, published author 3 times plus, as well as a podcast host of your own. What, if any, questions during the interview would you have asked yourself that I might not have?
How to really form a strong connection with others.
Okay.
Quickly. And honestly, the answer is to love them. To come from a spirit of genuinely caring about their well-being. Because when people sense that, it's so rare. Most people are focused on what they want or need to get out of a situation. When they sense that you are tuned into them, you're really focused on what they're saying, who they're being, you're fully present.
Yeah.
And your spirit of love is coming through. It really is like magic, because it's not manipulation, it's not phony, it's genuinely caring about another person. and being present for them.
And that is an awesome note to end on. So, what is the best way for people to contact you online? I mean, your books are on
Sure.
Amazon, but
I'm
yeah.
on LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter, but LinkedIn is probably my primary focus. And our website is growstrongleaders.com, and there's a place to connect with me there to contact me, and that's where our products, books, and my podcast live. So that's a great place to find everything that we offer.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to join us today. I think you had a lot of good things for people to think about as they move forward with all of their intentions in 2023 and beyond. So thanks again. Now,
Thank you, Barbara Ann.
Oh, you're welcome. Now, we've also got some other guests coming up. We're officially in 2023 on season 2. And so some of our upcoming guests include Belle Walker, engineer turned organizational change consultant, and Joanne Morton, positive energy artist and owner of Magic Passion Love Art, and many, many more that we're working out confirming with. Please believe me when I say you don't want to miss what any of our future guests have to say about their journeys. And if you missed any of our past guests and want to check out what they had to say, you can catch all of season 1 on demand on the What the Why page of RVN's television website, as well as on Roku. I did want to mention, thank you for watching us. You have so many viewing choices these days, so we really appreciate that you are taking time to watch us, and we hope you're also telling a friend or a colleague about us. And please remember, whether you want to make changes in your life or career or relationships, big or small, please join us again for more informative, inspirational, educational conversations with guests such as Meredith Bell, who overcame whatever fear, obstacles, challenges, even if they knew what they wanted to do from when they were little, to find their why purpose, overcome those fears and obstacles, and live their core purpose.